again, and welcome back to Arcobee. I'm Oz, founder and CEO. Today we're going to talk about the supply chain issues of 2021 and how it's been affecting our projects this last year and how we see the pattern continue to develop into 2022 and what you can do about it to minimize the effects on your projects and your holdings. Supply chain issues were all over the news in the latter half of 2021 and personally touched every single project I partook in, sometimes in the most unexpected ways and at the most unexpected times. Some products became comically extreme with their supply chain delays. For instance, for the last 3 months, I heard lead times for sub-zero refrigerators in the 10 to 12 month range on multitudes of different projects. Many other trades have seen their lead times double or triple in length, with costs also inflating in unison. So far, the most affected areas I've seen are appliances, furniture, especially certain brands which are manufactured in Asia, Italy, and abroad, AV technology, IT technology, and lighting control systems, which are all tied to the chip shortage, carpet, tile and stone, including counters, floor and wall, sourced abroad, high-end Italian finishes, and also high-end plumbing fixtures, especially if sourced abroad. The causes of the supply chain issues we are experiencing are many, and as we turn to the year, I do hate to break the news, but it also appears to be getting worse, or at best, not improving. As we close 2021, we're experiencing a huge boom in demand for construction and renovation projects, while the core causes of the supply chain problems are also amplifying. In my opinion, this setup does not bode well for improvements in 2022. In fact, we'll have to assume that the supply chain will continue to affect us on our projects through the remainder of 2022, and we'll be sure at Arcobee to track how this develops in every quarter through the rest of this year. So what is an owner or manager to do about this? This only means that we should put all of our efforts on managing what we know and working with our team to mitigate any impacts on our projects. Fortunately for us, there are still many steps that we can take proactively to assure the best chance of our own projects staying on track. Here are 6 steps that you can take to assure minimal supply chain impact on your project. Tip number 1 is to place your orders quickly. One of the key lessons in the design and construction business is that nothing formally happens until orders are placed and deposits are formally made. Thus, your lead times actually start once the deposit payment hits the end supplier and finishes moving through the process from you, the customer, to the mid-vendor, to the end supplier. With this in mind, it's important to coordinate design and product decisions expeditiously. Once receiving proposals, move through the review and order process as fast as possible. If revisions need to be made, make them quickly. Additionally, once your proposals are approved, when you receive deposit requests from your vendors to place, you should always move quickly to process them. Some vendors will require a quote sign-off and then subsequently a deposit invoice based on the quote sign-off. Furniture vendors being a notorious example of this. In such situations, be sure to approve, if correct, be sure to approve the quote and also place the deposit invoice as fast as possible. So signing the quote is not enough to place the order. Our next tip follows on a very similar note. And tip number 2 is, if you're certain you want something, go for it. If you already know that you want something on your project, go ahead and order it right away if there's any worry of a long lead time. For example, as I mentioned, we have specified sub-zero refrigerators on many of my recent projects, and for good reasons. This brand of appliance is immensely popular on high-end architecture projects, and owners will order them despite the long lead time, simply because they're great to have. With certainty in a product, we can assure lead times are followed through simply by placing the item in queue, which lessens the chance of any delay. I strongly recommend going forward with an item quickly if there's any worry of long lead times, but you already know that that's the one that you want in your space. Tip number 3 is to source local and in-stock items when possible, especially for very basic required items on a renovation project. For example, maybe you require basic carpet for a storage room or a basic wall tile for a maintenance closet. Source items which are already available locally and regionally and are in stock, and you can work with your subcontractors to confirm availability. Another example might be with stone, where you work with your subcontractors to confirm existing availability in a stone yard of the quantity that you need for your project. As you move into higher end projects, it's also better to source intra-national items as opposed to items sourced overseas and shipped, both manufactured and assembled, to ensure lead times are maintained. On high-end, high-finish architecture projects, supplies are limited and made to order, so it's better to have the mindset in tips 1 and 2, coordinating what you already need and placing the orders quickly. It's very difficult to source high-end or custom finish items in stock, as often these are made to order or have custom finishes or are sourced in very difficult places to work with. For example, Italy and Italian stones being a great example that comes to mind. Tip number 4 is to track shipping origin points and tracking vessel loading and unloading. In a new 2021 development, it's now becoming important to identify where your shipment is coming from, especially if it's an international destination, and to make sure that they were actually loaded onto the ship in the first place. One of the core patterns in the 2021 supply chain problems are ships sitting at sea being unable to berth, thereby delaying both the cargo unloading to its final destination, as well as cargo containers returning to the origin for reloading. So cargo unloading, but also that requires the empty containers to go back to the origin for reloading. This means that ultimately shipping from abroad can be unreliable at 2 key points. One is shipping out on time, waiting for the containers to come arrive for the product to be going out. And the second is actually docking and unloading on time, while the ships are sitting at sea waiting to berth. We saw numerous issues in 2021. The worst I personally experienced was a defective window panel installed in a very high-end residential new build in New York City, a penthouse in Midtown that took about 9 months to replace due to a poor supply chain. The pane was sourced in Italy, but due to shipping delays, it did not actually leave on its original ship until 2 weeks later. And upon arrival in the United States, it was discovered that the panel that was ordered was incorrect. We had to repeat the entire process 3 months later while we waited for the new pane to be manufactured. Recently, I had another similar experience. An Italian stone floor that was supposed to be shipped out in December, and this was confirmed by email as shipped by the vendor. However, we followed up by email a few weeks later with the vendor as we didn't hear any other new information, and then received an email in the middle of January that it didn't ship at all. Instead, the vendor had completely dropped the ball and had been sitting in their stone yard waiting to ship for a period of 6 weeks. For shipping, be sure to ask for vessel information and confirmation that the shipment is actually loaded and unloaded. As you can see from these above examples, an email is simply not enough. Be sure to request and verify a tracking number and confirmation of loading and unloading onto the vessel. Tip number 5 is to press your vendors for confirmed delivery dates. Right in line with the last tip, you should also confirm the delivery dates with your vendors on all items. Many vendors will only give you ship dates to start, but this means nothing and has no face value. What actually matters is when a product is set to arrive at your project. Many vendors will try to push back and say they require a deposit placed before they can provide this sort of information. You might be better off choosing a vendor whom you know is reliable and who you can make this guarantee, than someone who doesn't. And this brings us to our final tip, tip number 6, which is to pick the right vendors. I'm a huge proponent of building the right team for the job. Whether you're doing an architecture and construction renovation or a new build, or refurbishing or refinishing your property, or simply seeking the best property maintenance team, having the A team under your wing ensures a high standard outcome. Working with people who care about their relationship with you goes a long way to ensuring the process happens smoothly. Just about the worst kind of company and vendors you can work with is one that does nothing to go the extra step to ensure a great product and a satisfied client. Unfortunately, it is getting much harder to find vendors like these, but nevertheless, they do exist, and we do work with many of them. Be wary of vendors who only pay lip service but do not deliver on their word. Soon in the future, I'll be doing a webinar covering how you can spot the right vendors and the right professionals for your project, how to spot the ones to avoid, and how to build the best team for your property build-out and management. For updates into 2022, we'll be sure to keep you updated and appraised in the next couple of months as the supply chain situation develops further this year. I'll be closely watching this on my own projects and will provide a new update every quarter. Be sure to follow us here on Archibee and check out our website for our full program and tools for your properties and projects. Remember that 30 minutes of learning a day can save you immensely on time and money, avoiding costly mishaps. And again, thanks for listening.